Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Chadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so honored that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. She's here to celebrate rock, fossil, and shells. Before we invite Jennifer back into the studio, we want to let you know we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read, A Doll for Me by Andrea Koch. You know, many children around the world don't often see themselves represented. Kids of color and kids with any type of difference are widely underrepresented in the children's literature market and especially in the toy market. Children's book author Andrea Koch seeks to change that through her adorable new picture book called A Doll for Me. A Doll for Me features an African-American child named Molly who is invited to attend a tea party to celebrate her friend Emma's birthday. Every child is supposed to join the party with their favorite dolls. Molly is really excited to go to Emma's house because Emma has loads of toys to play with, especially all the dolls that look just like Emma. Molly is now on a mission to find a doll that looks like herself to take to Emma's party. With the help of her mother, Molly scans all the existing dolls, new dolls at the store and online. But all the dolls look the same, and they don't come close to resembling Molly. Molly then takes the problem into her own hands. Literally, she decides to create her own doll by using stuff from her mom's junk drawer. She hand makes a unique doll from scratch that looks just like her. Molly's doll is special. It's one of a kind, just like Molly. Dolls make a powerful impression on young women in their confidence, so every child has the right to receive a doll that represents themselves, no matter their ethnicity, ability, or social status. Unfortunately, stores rarely stock shelves with dolls displaying kids of color, kids with scars or birthmarks, or any other unique characteristic. A Doll for Me addresses this issue with the help of a light-hearted story for kids to understand. It's a great choice that you can use to start conversations with your kids about diversity and inclusion. Parents and caregivers can use the book as a tool to help children embrace their heritage, feel comfortable in their own skin, and be confident and proud right from childhood. We congratulate A Doll for Me by Andrea Koch, our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read. For more information about this book and for more information about our great Reading with Your Kids certified great read program, please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Joining us right now from Jacksonville in Florida, we are so excited to welcome back the Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, the Admiral of Adventure, Jennifer Swanson. Hey, Jennifer, how are you?
Hey, Jed, I'm so excited to be on the Reading with Your Kids podcast again and have a time to chat with you about science.
Yes, indeed. Jennifer is one of our first guest on the program 4 years ago. She's been a regular guest on the program. Jennifer and I launched the Solve It for Kids podcast together, which is now going strong in its third season.
Well, we are actually, Jed, in 2 weeks. It's been a year since we launched that. Can you believe that?
Wow, unbelievable. Time flies when you're almost 100 years old. That's me, not Jennifer. Jennifer is young. And speaking of 100 years old, we're going to be talking about things that are over 100 years old. The name of her new book is part of the Outdoor School series. It's Rock, Fossil, and Shell. Tell us about this book. You would tell me a little bit. This seems so cool.
It is. So it's a brand new, like you said, outdoor school series. There's 3 books in the series, and I got to do the Rocks, Fossils, and Shell Hunting Guide. So if you have kids of all ages, by the way, who like to collect rocks and fossils and shells, this is like the journal that they can take out with them. You can actually write in this, and there's field guides for rocks and shells and fossils that you find in there, and you can stick it in your backpack and take it out on a hike with you outside, because, you know, right now that's what we all want to do, right? Get outside.
And you know, we don't think of it. You know, we step by, we kick rocks down the street. At least we used to do that when I was young. And,
Yeah.
you know, so they're all over. We stub our toes on rocks. But I don't think we always take the time to realize that all these rocks are different. And there's a story behind each rock.
Exactly. So this is there's the whole stuff in there about the rock cycle, which, as most people know, the whole rock cycle, it's moving. Rocks move. And everyone thinks, what? They really do move throughout the rock cycle. I mean, it takes thousands or hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of years for these rocks to move. But the rocks that are on top of Mount Everest could have been 10,000, 20,000, whatever, 100,000 years ago, down at the bottom of the ocean. That's how the rock cycle moves throughout the earth. It's kind of the Earth's own recycling cycle.
Wow. All right. So you've piqued my interest. How does that happen?
Well, so the rocks actually change, and I mean, again, this does not happen, like, you can't watch this change.
Right.
But rocks will break apart into what we call sediment, and they will settle. Like, if you felt the bottom of a lake or something, in there is not just sand, but sand is actually tiny bits of rock that's been pulverized. So, and this works for fossils. So the fossils something might die, lay in the sand, and then the sediment settles and settles. And we all know that we live under atmospheric pressure, even though we don't feel it. So it's like if you put a sandwich between your hands, and say it's peanut butter and banana, right? You have peanut butter, you have the banana, and then you squish it with your hands over time. And the banana stretches out and all this kind of stuff. That's kind of what happens with the fossils in the rock over tens of thousands of years. And then so the rocks will eventually go down, and then they melt when they get underneath the lithosphere, the part of the where the kind of the liquid lava is underneath the crust. And then they'll kind of come back up, and either through a volcano or something like that, earthquake, they'll come back up, and then they'll be on the surface. Or who knows, you know, rocks can sort of grow kind of over time, just like Mount Everest is still growing. So that's how the rocks kind of move. It's really cool. We don't think about it because we can't see it, right? You would have to have like this time-lapse photography for tens of thousands of years to watch this happen. But it's cool. Like, everything moves around us.
That really is wild. And as soon as you were talking about the rock being pushed down to the lava point, then it was like, bing, because I visited a volcano about a year ago. It's like, that's how they get up. It's not like there was like little elves that bring them up to the top. It was like, boom, it gets out there.
And what a lot of people don't know is lava is basically molten rock. It's liquid rock. Because when it hardens into rock.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's cool. I haven't seen a volcano yet, but I'm very excited to see one. Hopefully we're going to Hawaii in another couple months, and I just think that would be so cool, especially after I wrote the book, to actually see, look, there's real rock right there.
Well, you know, it is really cool. We went down, we visited Volcano Poas in Costa Rica, and it's an active volcano, and they don't play. You get a window, so if your ticket to visit with your group is at 9:30 and you show up at 9:32, lo siento mucho, you can't go, you missed it. And you know, we got the little hard hats, and we had the training, and along the way they pointed out, well, if there's a volcano, if you hear this whistle, get into the shelter and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then turns out we were up there, and I was asking my guide, how, you know, is this really serious? and, are you really worried about this erupting now? And he said, no. He said, but what I am worried about is the fact that there's a thunderstorm right now, and we're on top of a mountain, and so we're going to go down.
You are the lightning sticks up there,
That's
yes.
right.
Well, the cool thing about this book is if you would have gone, you could have taken this with you, okay? Because there's all these cool stuff to do in here. Like we have try it, track it. So there's activities for kids to use this in their classrooms, or they can use it, when they go out with their parents. And in here, we even have one like how to create your own geological dig in your backyard. Ask your parents first before you just start digging up your backyard. But, there's this challenge where what if your friends or your parents went out in the backyard and buried something, and then you made this cool grid like the archaeologists do to dig something up. So there's all these activities that you can do. So you could have taken this with you and identified some of the rocks that you saw.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Growing up, I don't know what it was, but growing up, books were always kind of like sacred. It was probably because, it was the school gave us the books, and so we had it, and we had to turn it in at the end of the year. So if it was messed up, my parents had to pay for it, and I was in trouble. But books were like these things, and you didn't get them dirty, and you didn't bend the pages or anything. But I love the fact that rock fossil and shell, it's made to be messed with. You want at the end of the year to be, crumpled and written on and dirty, because it just shows that you got into it and you used it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I grew up the same way with books, but this one, they actually put this really cool kind of special cover on it, which is almost, I don't know if it's waterproof, but it's flexible and strong. So you can take it out with you, and they have these like little metal things in the end to make it work. But I would have killed to have had a book like this when I was a kid, because I grew up in central Illinois with a creek, or as we called it back then, a crick, in my backyard. And we used to follow that around. I mean, we used to pick up shells and rocks, and occasionally, if we were lucky, we'd, get an arrowhead or two, right? And so that's where I spent my days as a kid out in the summer, just hiking all over the place. I went to Girl Scout camp. We camped in tents and in the forest and watched animals. So for me, doing this book was just brought back so many memories, great memories of being a kid and running wild. So the hashtag for this series is Rewild Your Life. Pretty good, huh? Pretty good,
yeah. And one of the things I love about this is, we talk about reading with your kids here in the podcast, but this is absolutely an amazing book that can help families explore.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, it has a lot of content in it too. So it explains the rock cycle that I was talking about. If you're doing animal watching, it talks about the animals and where you would find them. And the same thing for shells, where you might find certain shells in certain areas. Shells also move around, especially in the ocean, right? Mm-hmm. They come in and out, and it gives you an idea. So you actually learn what a shell is, and that shells were mostly homes to different types of animals originally. It talks about the animals. So there is stuff to learn too, but then you take your learning outside, not sit in the classroom, and you get to do hands-on science, which, you've had me on the show. I'm all about hands-on science, right?
Yeah. Well, especially because we've talked about reluctant readers, and we've talked to experts about kids with ADHD and attention issues. If you have a kid who does, falls into those categories, this is perfect, because it doesn't require a kid to sit down at a desk and pay attention. It's like, you have a lot of energy. Great. Let's grab this book. Let's go out and find some rocks together.
Exactly. Right. And I mean, I was that kid. I was that kid who wanted to be outside and doing things. And again, seeing it and feeling it and picking the rock up and then defining, or the shell or the fossil, if you're looking to find fossils, and looking through, that just makes you feel ownership to it, right? Mm-hmm. Like not only did I find a rock, but now I know what kind it is, right? And I can do these little experiments to find out if it has carbon in it, or if it has this, nitrogen in it, or whatever. And I can figure it out myself, and I'm like a real geologist.
Yeah. So cool. Hey, You just mentioned real geologists. I had a neat experience one time when I was on the road. You go to those cavern systems when in different parts of the country, and then they take you on the tour, and they go down and they have all the corny little jokes about here's the highlight of the trip, and you look up and there's a light. Oh. I went on one of those. I forget where. I think it was in Virginia, but I was the only one who showed up for the tour. And so the geologist started the tour, and he was a geologist. And so he started, and he was going with the corny jokes and everything. And I just said, hey, look, dude, you don't have to do that for me. In fact, I don't like it. But what I really like to do, you seem into this. So you take me and show me what you think is really cool. Oh. And so I got this unique tour of this cave system that was really amazing. It was fascinating, and I was so happy I was able to do that.
Yeah, and you probably made his day, right?
Oh,
because
he was like,
I mean, not that what he did wasn't awesome, but he would love to be able to go into more in depth in what he does. Because even when we were doing this all with your kids podcast, those scientists are so excited about whatever they're doing, and they just love to talk about their passions for it. So you probably totally made this man's day.
Well, I hope so. And one of the reasons I mentioned that too is because there are a lot of times when you're traveling with your family, there may be times when you are in that situation when your family's the only one who showed up for the tour. And you kind of know when you're getting the canned, scripted tour from someone. And feel free. They might say, no, I have to do this. My boss is going to be watching me. I have to do the canned scripted tour. But every once in a while, you're going to get lucky, and you're just going to say, hey, look, you tell me what you like down here. Just you show me what you think is cool. And like you said, they just smile and they beam, and they're like, okay, here we go.
And it may be more than you asked for. But
it was a little bit.
But, so this book is also cool because it gives you, like, if you're, like, you've been perhaps, stuck in your house for the pandemic and you want to go somewhere outside. Mm-hmm. So all three of these books make suggestions for where you can go outside and where you might see fossils. So you're going to probably see more fossils out in the Southwest or, because it's drier out there and they last longer. But there's some places that there are parks that you can go kind of fossil hunting on your own. Now, I will say this, there's a caveat. There's rules. So before you take a fossil, like if you happen to come across a dinosaur fossil, you can't just remove it. You have to tell the paleontologist, whoever's there, kind of thing. But think about that. You could just kind of dig up your own fossil. I mean, I would do that. That would be fun.
That would be so much fun. And don't tell anybody this, Jennifer. I was in a really, really cool place of Keechee Gorge in Vermont. It's really, really deep gorge, and we were climbing down into the gorge with my amazing niece, and she was just making fun of me because I'm 100 years old, and she referred to me on that trip. She referred to me for the very first time as a fossil.
Oh.
And
that's fun.
I just thought that was really fun, and it was accurate too. But how likely is it that we'll run into a fossil?
I mean, that's really hard. I mean, that was something my editor kept saying, in the book, talk about this. I mean, it's almost impossible to answer that question because people have fossil finds in the most unexpected places. Right? You can find a fossil almost anywhere. And also, what do you mean? There's so many different kinds of fossils. So, a fossil that's been imprinted on the rock might be a leaf. That might be easier to find than, say, a dinosaur fossil, right? Arrowheads are forms of kind of fossils that people think about that you might find, which aren't exactly fossils, but, they're just different kinds of things that you can do. I mean, you can look anywhere. Like I said, it's tough. And that was the thing. They were also trying to pin me down. Well, where are you going to find this particular type of rock? And I said, anywhere. Again, rocks move. Now, animals have ranges for the most part, right? Or plants. You'll find plants in certain regions. So that book is more, But rocks and fossils and even shells, they move. So you could find a really amazing shell in a place completely unexpected.
Yeah. And I was going to make a joke about, finding one in the desert in Tucson, Arizona, but birds carry shells and they get picked up by the wind and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, like I said, this was the toughest one to pin down. Because like I said, my editor, they were trying to okay, we want this in this book. And I was like, this topic doesn't fit into a box. Sorry.
And that's one of the great things about this. And this is why I think that rock, fossil, and shell would be a great addition to any family library, because it doesn't fit into one tiny, tidy little box. If you are in the Northeast, this is a great book. If you're in the Southwest, this is a great book. If you are in Costa Rica or Panama or Brazil or England, this is a book that a family can really have a lot of fun with.
Oh yeah, exactly. And discover new things together, and because, to me, I have a couple of challenges in there for the kids. And I'm like, what if you challenge your friend or members of your family? Let's see who can find this type of rock first, or the shell, or wherever, or find the first fossil. I mean, it's kind of fun that way, right? And you can even in this one learn how to build your own map, right? So you actually map out the place and you figure, I'm going to go here or I'm going to go here. So you know where you find your rocks. And there's a section in there for how to polish them, not with a professional polisher, right? That you just buy at the store, but how to actually hand polish your rocks the old way that we would have done as kids.
That's so cool. Now, I have to ask, do you have a favorite rock or shell?
Of course you would ask me that. So I love granite, I guess. I think granite is cool. And here's the cool thing too about rocks. Like, think about granite. You can find it in your house. People's houses are made of it. People's buildings, sculptures, shells. Oh gosh, this is probably harder. I like the big, cool shells, like the conch shells. Not that I have one, because those are actually illegal to take off speeches. But I think, but also clam shells too, right? Like sometimes when you're walking along the ocean, because I live in Jacksonville, you will find the two sides of the shell still stuck together, which without the animal inside, which is unusual because usually it'll break apart. And I think those are really cool how they fit together when they close, right? I just think that's so cool. Nature is amazing.
Yeah. And the weird, you're mentioning that you like granite. Granite has magical powers. I mean, you take a granite countertop and put it inside a house. It just raises the value of that house.
Very good. Very good. Just like if you build a statue or a building out of it. Yes, it makes it more expensive.
Yeah. Hey, Jennifer, tell everybody where they can go to find out more about rock, fossil, and shell, and also find out more about all the fantastic books you've written.
So you can go to my website, which is jenniferswansonbooks.com. You can also find the entire Outdoor School series on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a bunch of indie publishers or indie bookstores, and also through Odd Dot, which is the Macmillan website. They have it there, but it's all over the place.
Yeah. And we, especially now during the pandemic, even though we're coming out of the pandemic and out of lockdown, we still want to support those indie and small book sellers. So, give them a call before you venture out and say, hey, do you have Rock, Fossil, and Shell by Jennifer Swanson? That's part of the Outdoor School series. If they don't have it on their shelves, they can get it to you really quickly.
Right. And I think it's bookshop.org, which is where you can find a list of all of the indie booksellers. So yeah, take a look at that. We have a video, and you can if you just Google us online, we've done a couple of PR spots, around the country that, one's going to be on ALA, the American Library Association, next week. and The Novel Neighbor, which is one we did which is an indie bookstore in St. Louis that
cool.
all three of us authors were together. So it's pretty fun videos to watch.
That's awesome. And right before we go, let everybody know where they can go out and find your fantastic podcast.
Oh, it's on solveitforkids.com. So yeah, take a listen.
Awesome. We've had a great time chatting with our friend, the author of Rock, Fossil, and Shell, part of the Outdoor series. Our buddy, our dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Hey, Jennifer, great to have you back on the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thanks so much, Jed. I always love talking with you.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. It's another special Protecting the Planet with Your Kids episode of the show. Kevin Albin is going to be joining us. Kevin is a fascinating character. He is a children's author. He is also an ecological guide. He takes young people into the rainforest of Papua New Guinea and helps them develop a connection with their world. And he's here to celebrate a really fascinating middle grade novel called Stone Child. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Earlier in the show, we let you know that Andrea Coates, A Doll for Me, is our brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read. If you are an author of a fantastic children's book, you want to check out our certified great read program. Do you know there are literally thousands of books published every single month? It is so hard. How hard is it? It's like wicked hard for a book to stand out from that crowd of books that are published, like I said, every single month. We have a solution. At least it's been a solution for a lot of authors. It's the Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program. And so many authors have really found this to be a really useful way to let folks know that their book is worthy of consideration. And one of the things that we really love is that we've had so many authors come back and submit their second, their third, their fourth book to the Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program. It's letting us know that this program is making a difference in the sales of their books. We'd like to do the same for you. Go to our website, please, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Scroll on down to where it says Certified Great Read. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our guest, our dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Please be sure to check out Rock, Fossil, and Shell. I also want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan, Helen Fraser, Justina Thompson. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be with you for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.